Just a second. Yes. Is the screen is visible?
Yes, sir. We can see, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for
Yes,
the
sir.
confirmation. Yes. Okay. Yes. To starting with a robot, we are basics of robots we are covering, right? So first, we will have the mind what is an industrial robot and what are the different robotic terminologies and what are types like, and what are the frame, joints, actuators, sensors, and effectors. These are the questions which will come into your mind whenever we will ask a question a robot. Since a person's from education sector, you guys will have this in your mind, right? Yes. So so you will be aware of a definition of a robot. A robot, how a robot should be, what is a definition for a robot, which is getting explained here. Why we are using a robot? A robot is always used to perform a repetitive job where a man is getting a human cannot do it in a circumstance or environment which is not a good for human to do it, or a repetitive work, or a work which is going to be very precise and accurate. So such works we are going to do with a robot. So how we are doing it? We are programming a robot in the back end with some PLCs, and we have got some softwares to do to control this robot, right? So basically, we are using these robots in applications called pick and place, welding, and all those applications in the industries. Lot more. So let us see the way which this robot is traveled all the way till now, where it started and where we are now and everything. So it all started in 1495, where Leonardo da Vinci were first called as a plan for a robotic knight, which is like it's similar to a robot. He has drew a plan where it all started. The idea started in 1495, and which has got developed into a digesting duck. This man Jacques in 1737 he has developed another robot which is called as a digesting duck, which replicated a normal duck. After in 1810, Friedrich first designed the first humanoid robot where we are in now, the Sophia, which is humanoid robot, which is with us advanced. Just a second. Right, so that's like not. So we can separate this travel into four different generations with the development of these robots: first, second, third, and fourth. And we can have a look into it, what are all the generations, what are all the developments we had it in each generation. So the first generation we are referring to 1950s to 1960s, where we designed universal automation. This company have designed a first reprogrammable robot. You can see the image of this robot. So the Unimation, they have the later this company first robotic company, and they are Unimate. They perform a useful work in manufacturing such as material handling. They used this robot to pick and place and all those operations. So this is what happened in first generation. This is the most advanced robot we have got it in the first generation. Just a second. So if you go to the second generation, we will see it starts from 60s and later 70s. The Puma programmable universal machine for assembly was the robot again developed by the same animation, and here the GM also supported them to develop this second generation Puma. Since this is an e-learning module, I'm facing the issue to go back and come. Just a second. Yes. So the third generation where advanced things are coming up in the 80s. This is the third generation of the robot, where we have got programmable robots, where we have got the controller along with the robot and to do the programming, all those structures. Also, these robotics have developed into various sectors like mechanical, electrical, and computer science department. Everywhere they are started using the robots in third generation. Yes. Now we are in the present fourth generation after 1995 to till now to 2021. We are emerging into a small robots and mobile robots, and we have got a humanoid robots with us, and we have got multiple robots. Till advanced the humanoid we have got with us now. Also, the manufacturing sector has developed tremendously into this robotics, where a welding application till the inspection, packing, and material handling everywhere we have automated with the robots. So the fourth generation we have got the most advanced social humanoid robots. So this is the present scenario where we are in the robotics. I think this is the Asimov's law, where you might have got familiar with this. There are three laws of Asimov where a robot is being defined how a robot should be. The first law is robot may not harm a human or through inaction allow a human to come to harm. Where in a simple words, the robot should not harm a human, or it should not be programmed to harm a human. It should be in that way. This is the first law of Asimov. Second law is a robot must obey the orders given by the human beings except when the such orders conflict the first law. It again connects to the first law, where it is telling that it should obey the human beings, but it should not obey to the human being to harm any human. Right? It should not. It's a productive purpose only. We should use this robot not for any destructive works. And we have got the third law. The third law is a robot must protect its own existence as long as it does not conflict the first or second laws. Again, it should exist for the own existence. It should ensure its own existence, but it should not get conflict with the second and first laws. This is something we it's when we talk about robotics, this is coming under the very basic part, the laws of robotics. You can have a note. So how a robot is doing? A robot is doing a different jobs along the down the field with all the industries, and we are doing it in domestic works. So what are all the robots are used mainly for? As I told earlier, these are all the main areas where the robot is being used. The jobs that is dangerous for humans. You can coin this thing. Dangerous means it's not something. Health consciously. We can have a painting cell in an automotive industry where it is where people are having lot of uh, effects in their respiratory tracts when they inhale the paints. That is very harmful for the human. We take the radioactive materials in the power generation, radioactive in atomic power generation plants, where we have to handle the radioactive wastes, which we cannot expose a human to that, right? And also, if we can take a dangerous for humans in the current scenario, the pandemic situation, when we want to deliver any medicines or food for a COVID patients, also it's dangerous. You might have seen the people who are generating the metal handling robots for those purposes, right? And again, the second point we will see, it is a repetitive job or a boring job. When we see in an assembly cell in an automotive industry where we are going to assemble two parts, a same job has to be done for thousands of parts, same assembling. So that might be very stressful. Also, it's a labor intense for humans, which means he might have the fatigue, and the human cannot do a repetitive job continuously with the same accuracy, which we know all. So these two areas where a robot is being used widely. Instead of a labor, we are using robots. So let's now look into the industrial robots or how they are being classified. Okay, and we have got domestic and medical robots and service robots and military robots and entertainment robots coming under robots which is used in various film industries, and those coming under the entertainment robots or this hobby and competition robots where people. Hello.
நேம் வந்து நல்லையான்னு போயிருதா, அதான் உங்க அப்பா அட்மிஷன்.
So sorry to disturb you, sir. You can come, sir.
Okay. So I thought. Okay. So hobby and competition robot.
Sir, I think you're in mute. You're not audible.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Audible, sir.
Okay. Somebody has muted. Okay. Yes. So this competition robots you might have seen in symposiums. Students, engineering students will develop a robot for competitions, and there are various international robotic competitions are happening where a student or any member can develop a robot and they can take it for these competitions. This is called competition robots. So this sum up of all the slides, application of robots across the industries, various industries, where wherever we are using the robots now, which has been compiled here, starting from industrial robots and all this which we had in slide. So we are going to concentrate on industrial robots. What are all the industrial purpose we are using the robot? We will see into it. We can say the after entry of robot, it has made a revolution in the manufacturing industry or automobile industry. So how come it has been? If you see the ABB Robotics, the analysis of their of ABB, they are telling that robots do a very specific task and fail into between the 10 categories. They have got categorized the robots into 10 where it is widely used nowadays. So let us look into it. What are all the different categories where we are widely using these robots? So very first is the welding, where we have got a lot of skilled human is required to do our arc welding. When we, it is a very tedious process where we have to have a skilled labor to do in an industry where we are now automobile and everything we are dealing with welding. So it has been widely replaced nowadays with the robots for the application of arc welding. So it ensures the safety and the quality of the weld. When we program a robot for a weld, it is going to be weld more or less same with the same quality and same parameters for all the welds. Next application comes as spot welding. Both arc welding and spot welding, we will say it is going to be sounding same, but application wise spot is used widely in automobile industries to join the car body, and those things we are using widely spot welding robots. We can see in the plants in all over Chennai, we have got Hyundai and Ford, and everywhere we are using the spot welding robots only. If you have gone to it, you might have seen the robots in bright orange colors doing a lot of works. They have got the spot welding robots over there. Also material handling comes under the third category where widely used. The logistics companies like Flipkart, Amazon, they have automated their material handling fully with this automated guided vehicles and the robots. No human works are going on in their warehouse and everything. So the material handling comes under the third category to use these robots widely. Fourth is going to be the machine tending. Machine tending also it's coming under our department where widely we are using this robots. Like tending in the sense we can have it for the painting robot and picking and placing and palletizing. So these applications, everything, we have got a software with us, AristoSim, where we will do the programming with all these applications. I will take the further half of the session with AristoSim after this introduction, where we will see the robot and programming of these applications in the robot. Assembly, again, I explained you in the first thing. So pick and place and palletizing is nothing but, again, it is coming under material handling, but is specific to this application. So next, grinding, deburring, polishing. Also, we can add gluing to this, where we want to glue a surface. We are using yes. Next comes the gluing and adhesive sealing and spraying. And the last, comes the jet cutting, water jet cutting, soldering, and inspection. This comes as the very last, where we are using the robots. Inspection in comes the quality inspection of when we have a visual inspection to ensure the quality of any product. Now the human efforts are doing, where it will be it will not be a more effective. For example, if you want to check a drill hole, whether the drill has been done in a part or not, we have to look into it, and we have to passing the quality inspection while we are doing a vision inspection using a human, where a human might miss one or two, but a robot, when we use a robot instead of this, we can ensure the 100% accuracy on that, the where it. And I guess you are familiar with this water jet cutting, right? Right. So now I will explain you the applications where it is used various. Okay. I think I should share my entire screen to see. Let me share it just a second. Can you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. So this is an arc welding scale of an ABB robot, where you can see a fixture. This is a welding gun. That blue line which is happening is a weld in between two parts. This you will be familiar with this welding, where we have done in your manufacturing technology laboratories, but here a robot will do it everywhere. So this is going to be our arc welding cell of an ABB robot, how it will be looking. And this is a jig and fixtures, where it will have a rotating fixture we have got with this, where two robots are involving in robot welding, arc welding. So you can program any along the 3D surface of a robot, or the working area of a robot, we can cover it. Also, you can see parallelly multiple robots. They are working on single application, right? So this is the arc welding and spot welding. A spot welding gun. This is a C-type spot welding gun we have got with us, ABB, where it will use to weld two different metal plates. This is a spot welding application. We will do it with the robot. These are all the simulation videos in the software we have recorded, and we have taken to you to look how exactly we will do it. Right. And next we will see about material handling. These things we have got it in the AristoSim robot, which is happening in our. So this is a vacuum gripper we have got with us. At a time, it is taking up the four components which is going to get packed. So this software we have got with us, Aristosim, where a student can program all the applications like the similar way which is happening here. So the next session I will explain you about this software and programming methods. Right. This is a pick and place operation happening. And next we can see a machine tending operation where a series of robots and machines are there, where a conveyor is there which is taking up the workpiece and loading it in a vertical milling machine. So the milling operation is happening in an workpiece. So after the operation is done, it is again taking up the workpiece and bringing it back to the conveyor. And the second set of operation, it is going to happen in an turning machine. So loading of turning component is happening. You can see there are two components here. One is a milling component, one is a turning component in the conveyor. After that, it is going back to the third robot. Where exactly these two components will be processed to the next station. You can see this is the milling component we machined first in that VMC. It is taking up. See, you can see the gripper. This robot has got a multiple gripper, two grippers at a time. It has taken the components. Where now they will assemble the two components. It's a press operation. Now these two machine components is getting assembled and it will come back as a single product. So this is an entire programming. We will do it in a single software with a machine and a robot. We can do it. This is where we will cover a machine tending operation. See, both the products have been assembled and made it to a single component. So let us see the next one, painting operation. It's a simple paint brush we have got with us. So it is not only for spray painting, also to if you want to have a calligraphy and everything, we can do this to write and do. This is one application that was with Aristosim, and here we are going to see about this spray. Can see the conveyor for the robots. A robot in industries, it will not be stable at one place where we have it in our laboratories. A robot can move also in a conveyor and do the operation. This is the conveyor which is used to move these robots. You can see while the operation is going on. You can see the robots moving along the workpiece. So you can see that gun is moving along the component. It is spraying the paint. The application is the paint spraying. Likewise, only it will cover. Right. Enough for this. I think we have seen this picking and place and assembly. Let us see a deburring on this. So here, this is deburring operation is happening. And a component is again placed in a conveyor and it is doing a series of operations. Here the machining is happening and the robot is doing a pick and place operation here. Let us see this last. So not only for machining or deburring, or we can use it for domestic operations also, wherein for example a keyboard manufacturing company where they want to do a quality testing on their keys, we can use this application. Is we have done it for keyboard manufacturers where we want to test keyboard keys, all the keys are functioning quietly, a quality check. So robot is being designed with a special key in the end effector where it is testing all the keyboard keys. This is again from the AristoSim software, which is we are using for our programming. This is one application, and here you can see a deburring tool is being given where a sharp edges is being deburred using this. This is a one car body we have got with us. I think it's coming under a roof. I think a roof of a car. So all the sharp edges has been deburred. This. Yes. So let us go back to this. So next we are going to look about the different parts in a robot, what are all the nomenclature where we can see anatomy, human anatomy we might have seen, and we are going to see about industrial robots anatomy. What are the different parts and assembled parts we have got with us. So starting from, you can compare this robot with your human hand, where so we have given some names like a shoulder and wrist, which again the its working is compared with your same shoulder and wrist, so they have given the name of that. So starting from the base, the gray part which is in the base of a robot, it is going to be the foundation part where the robot will get mounted. So ultimately the base will be the heaviest part of the robot where it should have absorb all the vibrations and all those happening in the machining and or when the robot is working. So it is going to move, right? So it should absorb all the vibration. Hence you have got the base as a very heavy part of the robot. Followed by the shoulder, you can see this is the first link of the of the robot shoulder. And the shoulder and you can see this elbow is got a link here, right? Elbow, again it can compare it with your same hand elbow, where this part is got as a elbow. So every part or every degree of freedom of movement, we have got a servo motor to control this movement, right? And third, we can see this is going to be the pitch, where we have got wrist here. Wrist will again it will have a twist motion, and roll, the end effector roll, it will rotate almost nearly to a 360 degree, not fully 360 but almost. It will have a rotation clockwise and anti-clockwise. We can rotate this, so hence why it is called as a roll. In the roll we are making a gripper, so that the gripper will rotate and we can access to we can reach to any area and capture the object. So all this gripper, roll, wrist, elbow, and which we are commonly calling as a wrist assembly. And we have this base, shoulder, and elbow we are calling as a body and arm assembly. There are two assemblies and these various parts of an industrial robot. All right. So if you see anatomy, we are kind of classifying this robot into three different types. We have got with us SCARA robot and mini robot and Aristros robot. So robot which we saw now is Aristo 6-axis robot. And if you see SCARA robot, it is quite, the anatomy will be different. Let me show you the SCARA robot. So SCARA robot, it again, it's again, we will use it for a pick and place robot or a gluing or something like that. This is our SCARA robot we have got with us. Here you can see the gripper has got motion called up and down motion. We have got linear motion. We have got it with the gripper, where that will be missing in an 6-axis articulated robot, which we saw. You can see this is the first degree of freedom where it is rotating, right? It's a rotary joint. Again, this is second joint is also a rotary joint. Now this is the third axis where a gripper has got a linear motion. The elbow has got a linear motion up and down. Just a second. Yes. So this is mini robot we have got with us for educational purpose of the basic programming. We are using this. This is a tabletop robot we have got with us, where various government skill development program we are using this robot to take away to the schools, and students are using this mini robot to learn the basic programming. All the applications which we are doing it in an 6-axis articulated robot, we can do it here, but the reach and the working area of a robot is little limited since it is a tabletop. We can carry it to anywhere and we can do this. Likewise, we have designed this robot. And this robot we saw just now, right? Thus, in the anatomy, we have seen that this is a 6-axis articulated robot. So the first axis, we have got it in the base where it is rotating a rotary joint. And again, the second is a rotary, which will allow, it's a parallelly, there is a, you can see the two axes is working on here. So this is a 6-axis articulated robot. We will see it in the software where we will access all the axes again. Right. So for now, we can have a look at it. These are the three types of robots we got with this. So next, coming to after anatomy, we should be familiar with some terms about this robotics. What are all the very basic terms we should be known? It's a mechanism. It's constructed by connecting a rigid bodies. So a rigid body is called as a link, right? Together, if we connect two rigid body, we will use it with a joint. A joint will be there in between a link, so that the relative motion between the adjacent links becomes possible. For example, you can take your hand and elbow, where it is getting connected in an elbow. The sharp point is a link. The two rigid bodies, your upper hand and the lower hand, where we have got the link. Let me show a video to explain this. Can see this orange is an link, and this purple is a link. Where it is connected, these 2 points, we can call it as a joint. Right now, then when we call, there is a DH parameters where we are checking it now. It's a robot analyzer software, and they are showing you the joint type, joint offset, joint angle, link length, and all those terminologies where we are using it in while we design a robot. This is that mini robot which we saw. Right? This is called as a link, and this point where the points are called as a joint. In simple term, we can have it a rigid body is called a link. When we want to move a rigid body, we should have a joint in between this rigid body called link, so that it will have a relative motions. Right? Next, a joint. Right? You can see link I explained, right? There itself we got the point for a joint. So the joint is acting as a connecting point between this input link and output link, where two different rigid bodies connected by a term called as a joint. So when we have a joint only, then these links will have a relative motion in between them. So let us see about the joint in a video again. The last video itself it's going to be the same. So this is your joint 1 and this is the joint 2. Right? The intersectional area of two links where you have got the joints. This is our 6-axis articulated robot which we saw, where it has been taken into the. Again, the down we have got the joint over here in between the base and the robot. There is a joint over there. That is why we are having this circular motion. Again, this brown and yellow part we have got a joint. This motion is happening. Second joint. Right? And third we have got here. This is the third. So whenever a degree of freedom is being there, a relative motion is required. We need a joint to ensure this. Right? I think this is enough for a joint. Next, a degree of freedom. This is where you will define a robot, a 6-axis robot, a 8-axis robot, 3-axis. Just nothing but not only in robot, in some CNC machines also they will define a 3-axis machine, 4-axis machine. This axis is referring to the degree of freedom, which is nothing but the motion where a robot or a machine is have got a motion in that axis. We are calling it as a degree of freedom. So officially in the term we will see a number of axes or a degree of freedom describes how the robot arm or a body can maneuver. A good indicator of the number of axes is the number of joints. The more the joints, the more degree of freedom, as I explained in that joint image itself. So if you have a 6-axis robot, or if you say that's a 6-axis, it will have a 6 joints for sure. Or when we have advanced, it will have a more 6 or more, but not lesser than a 6. Hope I'm making sense. So if it is a 6-axis robot, the number of joints will be 6 plus. If it is a 5-axis, number of joints will be 5 plus, not lesser than 5. This is what we are seeing it here. So let us see a video to understand this degree of freedom. So you can see here, as I told you, this is 6-axis articulated robot. We have got in the software, we can move that 6-axis in differently. So first axis is we are moving. So this will be considered as a first degree of movement. And every axis has got its limits, a positive and negative limit, where we can move the robot to its extreme. Beyond that, we will not have it, the movement. So that will be defined as a reach of a robot in its axis. So maximum reach, we will get it. So the fourth axis is a twist angle in the wrist, where we can twist the wrist, right? Likewise, it is doing. So fourth axis. And this is the fifth axis. Sixth axis has told you the role where the gripper is being rotated. These are all the 6 different axis moments. I've got it in, or 6 degree of freedom. Right. Next comes the manipulator. Manipulator, the term which is called as we will call it as a link. It's similar to a link. A manipulator is constructed using a rigid links connected by the joints. One's fixed end and one free end or closed to perform an application. So entire this assembly we will call it as a manipulator. When a link and a joint is being constructed to perform an application, we will call it as a robot manipulator, where it is going to perform an application using these links and joints. We are going to call it as a manipulator. So we have got different types of manipulators, 3 different types: open chain manipulator, closed chain manipulator, and parallel chain manipulator. Let us see a open chain manipulator. So when the loop is open, you see this is a SCARA robot where we have got first link, second link, and third link. Okay, and the end effector is free over here to do an application. This is called as a open loop chain or a open loop manipulator. Okay, when we see a closed chain manipulator, see this is a closed chain manipulator where we have got the links everywhere, it is connected, no free end is there. So this is where we have called this as a closed chain manipulator. And let us see a parallel chain manipulator. So here you can see this is again similar to a closed chain manipulator, but a manipulator with a open or closed chains connected through multiple joints to a common link is called a parallel chain manipulator. This link is a common, or where all the this joint is common for all the links, where it is connected to a single joint. So such is called as a manipulator, is called as a parallel chain manipulator. Again, you can see this example for a closed chain manipulator also. So as I told you, there is a joints classifications. So we are again classifying these joints into 5 types. There are 5 types of joints where we seen in the robot already the different types. Here we are defining those joints. So first joint is a linear joint. You can see the linear joint. There is an example image, is a representation is being given here. This is an input link. First we have already seen the joint is a connection point between 2 different links. So what is a linear joint? A joint between there will be an input link, there will be an output link. In between these two, joint is being connected. So that we have to have it in the mind first. So first we are going to see a linear joint. See again, this is a translation movement between the input and output link. It's a sliding movement which is with its axis parallel. You can see the input link, this is the output link. It's similar to a cylinder action where it will have a sliding motion in between. This is the link, but the link is not going to do any rotary or not like that operation. Here it is going to have a sliding motion where this output link will come out and extend and it will go back. This is called, we can compare it as a sliding motion. This is called as a linear joint, right? The second is the orthogonal joint, and you can see the link and the joint is parallel. They are parallel to the axis of movement. Here the orthogonal joint is similar to a L joint, but the input and output axis are perpendicular. So here they were parallel. Here you see this is the input link, the output link is perpendicular, but it is again a sliding motion, but the output link is perpendicular to the input link. Such joints are called as orthogonal joints. And we will have the third joint as a rotational joint, where we have shown in our 6-axis robots and all the SCARA robot we have seen the linear joints, but rotational joint we have seen everywhere, where this movement is in a rotary movement, where again this input and output are perpendicular to it. You can see the motion how it is going to be. Again, so rotary motion, we have got it in a rotational joint. You can compare it with a hinge of a door where it is going to have a rotary motion. Twisting is again a rotary motion, but the axes are parallel, where we are shown in our end effector, where the roll part of a robot, where it is going to have a parallel input and output are parallel, but the rotation is being like this. Fifth is a revolution joint. So again, it's similar to this T joint, where we will have the output axis is perpendicular to the rotational axis. We can see here. Output axis is perpendicular to rotation. Again, it is going to have a rotational motion only. Twisting here, it is parallel, where here in this revolution, both links are perpendicular, but the function of rotation is going to be the same. Right? So we have seen the different types of robot terminologies. So now we are going to see the types of robots. What are all the different types? So the robots have been classified according to the robot base and body and arm assembly. We are defining the types of robots. So according to the base, we are dividing them into fixed base robots or mobile robots, where a fixed base robot we saw in our softwares, where mobile robots we just saw in the painting application, where a robot is being connected to the conveyor and it is moving around, right? And also the AGVs, we can compare it with the mobile robots, where a robot has got a motion. In body and arm assembly, they are being classified into different types: Cartesian, cylindrical robots, spherical robots, SCARA robots, articulated robots, and parallel robots. We saw the examples for SCARA and articulated robots, and if possible, I will show you some examples for this Cartesian and cylindrical. So this is called as a Cartesian robot, where it is very simple application. Only we have got the linear motions. You can see no rotary joints, only linear joints, only sliding motions. This is called as a Cartesian robot. So ultimately the range of the robot is going to be very less. Simple applications, we are using this Cartesian robots, right? Cylindrical robots, let us look at cylindrical robots. So again, this cylindrical robots, we have got 3 axes of movements, where we have got a rotational joint and also a linear joint, where we will use it for again a simple operations like this. These are all called as a cylindrical robots, where we are using packing of cans. We are using this application, right? And let us see the next robot, spherical robots. They are called as a polar robots, the spherical robots. Why we are calling as a polar is the coordinate system we are positioning this robot is a polar coordinate system, where you can see there is a 2 rotary joints in the base and here in the shoulder, a linear movement in the gripper. So these type of robots we are using for die casting machine tools, where we want to have applications like that. So this is called as a spherical robot. Next we will see, we have seen the SCARA and articulator, we will see parallel robots. So this is that we have seen for the parallel robot application. We have a closed chain manipulator. So this is one example for a parallel robot. You can see the ABB parallel robot. Right? And we saw these examples again, fixed and so this is an assembly. Again, we are seeing it separately, a robot wrist assembly. how it has been, what are all the degrees of freedom we have got in what are the motions. So in a wrist assembly, you have got 3 degree of freedom where we can see this red color arcs where we are going motions. So first degree of freedom, we are the role is been a T joint, and this is a yaw joint where you can see yaw joint here. This movement we have got, and this is controlled with the OR joint. There are 3 different joints over here. Can compare it with this is a T joint, okay, and Y joint, yaw joint, and this is a OR joint in a wrist assembly. So this is mini robots axis. I have told, right, every axis of a robot will have its maximum and minimum position and a home position. Home position is nothing but an idling position. Any robot will have its home position when it is idling, and the robot or the starting point. When we start a program, we have to bring the robot back to its home position, and we will start the programming, right? So every axis, the SCARA has got this mini robot has got 5 axes. So in the 5 axis will have its minimum reach and maximum reach. So that is been explained here. And for the 6-axis robot, let us look into this since we are going to do the programming in the next session with the 6-axis robot only. So as I explained, these axes have been explained in the anatomy itself. So the base has got the minimum of minus 250 degree and maximum 90 degree, and the home position is going to be 90 degree. This we will adjust these specifications in the software where we will have a better understanding of these terms in the software. You can look into it. 6 different axes has got its different minimum and maximum positions in terms of degree we have given over here for a Aristo 6-axis articulated robot. Okay. Just a second. So next we are going to look into a term called a frame. What is a frame? A frame is nothing but the area where we are doing it all these operations. Means we can see in a frame in a software where we are going to assemble the robot and the stations and everywhere. This is going to be called as a frame. A frame or a coordinate system defines a plane or a space by axis from which a fixed point called the origin. So origin, this is the origin from where the frame is being defined, and the robot targets and positions are located by the measurements along the axis of coordinate system. So anywhere when we do an operation, we should define the points. For example, this robot, when we want to pick this component and place it here in this conveyor, we should define the movement. For example, X and Y coordinates we should give for that positioning, right? For that purpose, we have got this origin and the frame for the robots, right? This mesh is called as a frame, where this is the origin for the system. All right. So there are different types of frames used in the robot coordinate systems. So let us see what are all the things. First is a base coordinate system, work object coordinate system, and tool coordinate system, world coordinate system, and user coordinate system. So first you have to, just a second. So how a coordinate system is nothing but how you are defining that point. There is a different way of telling the address, right? To a single point, we can reach, we can refer to another point, and we can tell to how to reach to that target point, right? In that way only it is getting differed. When we, the reference point is a work is nothing but your, the work is nothing but the workpiece. When we refer a workpiece to move the robot, then we called it as a work object coordinate system. When we refer a tool is nothing but the end effector. When we refer a tool and we do it, it is called a tool coordinate system. And base is the base of a robot. When we refer, it is called as a base coordinate. World and user is world coordinate system. It's something which is used commonly to have a standard. We are using world coordinate system. User is according to the manufacturer, we will do with a coordination. That is called a user coordinate system. Right. So where it will be used is to when we use to represent a fixture or any external object of other than the robot, we will use this user coordinate system, right? Adding up to that existing coordinate systems. So this is an activity which is not required. So now we have to, again, the terms we are called as a TCP. These are all the terms which we have to be familiar with when we do it with robotics. TCP is nothing but a tool center point. For example, any tool which we use, which is going to have a center point. For example, it's going to be a welding gun or a spot welding gun or a glue gun or a deburring tool, which is we are giving to a robot. It will have called as a center point. So that is called as a tool center point. So why we are using this tool center point is a robot is a robot. When we give a spot welding gun to a robot, it is called a spot welding robot. When we give a arc welding gun to a robot, it is going to be called as a arc welding robot. So when we take up the existing tool and when we give another tool, it has to the program has to be familiar with that tool center point. For example, this welding gun has got a length of 50 mm. For example, we will take it, and for arc welding gun, it is going to be 40 mm. Okay, so the program is going to be same for these two both. For instance, I'm telling you the example. So okay, so this 50 mm gun and this is a 40 mm gun. The tool center point is going to be the reference point of the robot. So to reach a object in this frame, this 50 mm has to move only. For example, 30 mm means here this 40 mm has to move for again 10 mm extra than this tool, right? Since this is a shorter tool. So we should not do this calculation at the behind. That is why we are defining this tool center point, where exactly it will compensate the movement of the robot required to a different tools. Hope I made the sense. When we have a longer tool center point is going to be somewhere away from the robot. Shorter tool, it will be near to a robot. So, but the application is going to reach us same object. Means if you define the TCP, the robot will calculate the movement automatically. Right? This is called tool center point. And this is, I have explained the things. So a robotic system, it's nothing but a robotic cell in an industry. What are all the different components we are using it? For example, first is going to be the robot, which is required for a robotic cell. And next is the robotic controller, robot controllers, where we have got the pendants, teach pendants, and the robotic controller over here. And next is the actuators for a robot. And end effectors referring to the application of a robot, arc welding gun or a spot welding gun. When we give what we are giving to a robot to do that application, we are calling that as an end effector. And this is a manipulator, where we have got in a robotic manipulator, we saw the example, right? And positioner and sensors. This is sensors to avoid the entry of foreign objects into the cell. We have got this sensor here, right? This is a robotic system, a simple robotic system, right? So end effectors plays a very different role here. What are all the different types of end effectors we are got with us? We are going to see. So I told you the end effectors are defining the application of the robot. The different types of end effectors, we will look into it. First is going to be grippers, and next is going to be tools. Grippers is something when we want to take some objects, or when you want to do material handling applications. Such things we called we will use this gripper end effectors. And tools is the welding gun, spot welding gun, arc welding gun, glue gun, deburring tool. So mechanical operations we want to do it, we are using this tool, right? This is not required. And sensors we saw, right, in that where we will have sensors to reach the maximum and minimum points also. As I told you, 6 different axes has got maximum and minimum reach. We will have the sensors at the reaches where exactly when the sensor is reaching that point, the robot will not move further. Where these are the robotic sensors. There are some internal sensor and external sensors. So internal sensor, which I refer to the reach, where we want to sense the reach, we are using internal sensor, which is embedded into the robot. That are called internal sensors. External sensors are those where it is away from the robot, but in the robotic system, like in the last slide we saw, right? To avoid when a foreign object or a human is interfering into the robotic cell, the robot should stop. So such sensors are called as external sensors. So let us see internal sensor. So these are internal sensor which are responsible for the internal working of the robot, as I told you, right? And if you see the external sensor, so these are responsible for the interaction with the environment, where any unusual operations are happening or something like that if you want to do so. Or in, we can say the inspections also, when we want to sense quality inspections, so those are all also coming into the interaction with the environment. Those are also called as external sensors. Right, so this is enough for the sensors. And this is complicated, and this is also quite complicating. Yes, just a second. Yes, programming of a robot. So how we were doing this programming, series of codes and instructions or commands we are going to give it to a robot to do a perform a controlled action without a human interaction, right? Human interaction means when we doing that application, human interaction is needed in doing the program, but after executing the application there should not be any human interaction, where we are using this robot programming. Okay, so these terms they are explaining how it has been doing it. The robot program is how it is getting executed. So we have got 3 different types of programming: online programming, offline programming, and combination programming. Okay, so let us see what is online programming. Online programming is uses the robot to generate the program, where we will connect the robot lively and we will do the programming using the teachment and or something, right? So this is called as online programming, where lively we will use the robot to do the programming, called as online programming. Offline programming is something like a text-based programming, where we'll write the code and we will ask the robot to perform. Like software programmings are also called as offline programming, where we see now all the applications which we saw in the presentation now is sort of offline programming only, right? And next comes the combined programming, combination programming. It's a combination of online and offline programming. So for example, a robot will be there, software will be also there, where we can control the robot with the software also. Or if you want to do the program offline, and if you have checked, and if you want to do it to the robot, you can do it. Such programming are called as a combination programming. So these are all the three types of robot. This is not required, and this is also. So the kinematics is something which we have a note of it. There is a term called as DH parameters, where we will use it to design a robot. The kinematics motion of a robot. The four DH parameters we will take into a consideration. First is a joint offset, joint angle, and let me explain. Twist link length and the twist angle. So these are all the four different DH parameters we will use for a robot design, right? And we have got two kinematic systems called forward kinematics and inverse kinematics to define the robot motion, right? So let us see what is a forward and what is inverse kinematics, right? So here itself we can see forward kinematics. First, let us see what is forward kinematics. So forward kinematics is nothing but calculating the position and orientation of the end effector. So for example, if I want to take a phone, right, I want to calculate the position of the phone which is in my table. So that is called as a forward kinematics. Let us see. When we calculate the position of the object, this is going to be called as a forward kinematics. Let us see how a forward kinematics will be. So the final value we are giving, which is going to be the here we see 45 and 45, and we have given the reach, and we are calculating the movement. It is called as forward kinematics. This arc which we calculated, right? Different views we are seeing. In the way inverse kinematics is where this we are going to calculate the angle or required for this joint to reach to that point is called as the inverse kinematics. Let us see what is inverse kinematics. So calculating the each joint variables, for first we calculated the position of the phone, that is called as forward. The second inverse kinematics is in what angle I should move my hand to reach to that phone. When we calculate the angle of a hand movement, it is going to be called as a inverse kinematics. We will see the video for that, right? So this we are giving the value for the movement, inverse kinematics. So always you have to have in your mind that forward kinematics we will have only one solution. For example, the position of the object, the position of the phone in my table is going to be the same. That will have only one coordinate, one x coordinate and y coordinate only. But for us, there are multiple ways for me to take that phone. I can twist my hand and take, I can stand and take, I can sit and take. There are multiple ways to do this. That where the inverse kinematics will have multiple solutions. We can select the best solution for us to save the time or avoid the hindrance of the robot. We will select the best solutions. So always you have to have in your mind that forward kinematics will have only one solution, whereas inverse kinematics will have multiple solutions to select with, right? This is the simple term of example. We can go do it for it. With that, we are coming to the end to a theory part, right? So this is what the things which I wanted to cover it in the basics of robotics, but the different terms and these things we had it in the robot. So let us have a discussion of these things which we have seen in the past 1 hour. I think 1 hour 15 minutes we saw the things. So let us discuss any if you have got any doubts or any gaps. Let me address that and we will move to the programming part. Hope it's making sense. If you have got any doubts, you can open up your mic and you can shoot up the questions. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Yeah. So any clarification required, you can please feel free to ask.
Dear participants, is there any doubt? You can ask with our resource person.
All right. This, so it's giving a good sign that I've made justice to my presentation. Right. So next I'm going to cover with the software, AristoSim software, where we saw the different applications and all those things. We can program it manually in the software. The 6-axis articulated robot where we saw that we are using it here. So MTAP Technology Center, we are doing this programming on software we are providing to the students in the cloud. So this pandemic where we are doing all these things, a student can access to a software and he can practice and all those things in online itself. So let me take to my cloud library where we have got the softwares. Hope my screen is visible. Can anyone please ensure the screen is visible?
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So here,
Yes, sir.
this is our cloud software platform where we got, we are the another vertical we have got called as Abhias, where we are doing the skill development programs in 3 different streams: CNC, robotics, and automation, where we have got the skill development programs on these 3 different streams, and also we have got the softwares for these 3. For robotics concerned, we have got the AristoSim software where we are doing all these applications to understand the students, to make them sense with some theory parts like DH parameters, links and joints, and different robot anatomy. We have got a software called mRobot with us, where we have shown that mini robot and Scara robot and articulated robot. All the 3 robots we have compiled into single software, where a student can work on that in moving these 3 robots and understanding the axes. And this robot analyzer is an Rocky-Sim. These are all the some open source softwares which is available on the internet. We have got this again. We have compiled here for the students and the theory part. So we saw the link and join forward and inverse kinematics calculations. All those we have done in this robot analyzer software only, where it is available online. And this AristoSim is our software where we are doing, where we are going to have a session now, how the programming and all those activities we are going to do within an AristoSim software. So let me open it. All the applications which we saw, starting from the welding and deburring, gluing, or material handling application, everything, a student can program that application in this software. Robot will be available. He can bring in the robot table and applications and everything. We can do it here, right? So here, this is my robot where we saw, right? Now, just now we saw in the presentation, 6-axis articulated robot, right? And there are different views. We can see the robot in this software and we can work on it, right? Let me take this view where it will going to give you a better right. So this axis, I told you, there are 6 axes in this, so we can move the axes in our way, right? So similarly, individually, we can move the axis. The base axis, I'm moving it now. So this is going to be the first axis, right? And the second axis, this will be the second axis of movement, right? And third, this is our third axis. fourth axis, right? Fifth and sixth is with the roll. You can see the gripper rotating, right? So I told you that a robot will have a home position where we will start the programming. So whenever we want to start the programming, we should bring the robot to the home position. So this is the home position of this robot, right? So let me show that application which we are going to see in the programming, how to do the programming. Let us see the application first, and let us do that. Right. So a robot, this is the robot table and the pedestal, right? And this stacking of blocks, this is the application which we are going to do it now, right? There are different commands we are using: joint, rima, gripper, close and open. These are all the commands we will use it here in the software, and I will explain you how to program it also. First, let us look at it, how the operation will be done. So this is one application where stacking is being done. Let me just a second. Yes, hope it is. So it is going to arrange these stacks in a way that is what is been programmed. You can see when we want to move this robot, we are using a command called as a join command, and gripper actions we are using gripper open and gripper close. In simple terms, also we will use for a pick and place operation, where if you want to take a component and if you want to pack it in a boxes and if you want to do it, we can use such applications. In the software. So it's arranging like a tower, these blocks. Right. So this is the application where a robot is been done. So you can see the starting and ending, the robot will be in its home position only before starting the application, and after completing the application, the robot will go back to its home position. Right. So let us see now how to program the robot and what are the steps we are following in this AristoSim software to do the programming and all those things. Right. So let me take you to that. So we will see a pick and place operation, how we are doing it in a AristoSim robot. So starting from loading the robot table and setting up the environment for the application and to programming the robot, how to execute all those things, we can see it here, right? So this is going to be our material handling operation in Aristosim, which we are going to see. First, we are going to see the right, how to attach a gripper or a tool to that robot which we have, right? So let us see that. So when this robot, when we see this robotic table and pedestal is being done, now we are going to change the gripper of the robot. How to do it, we will see. So there is an operation called a gripper open and gripper close here, right? This is the where we can change the gripper. And if you click on that, we will have a tool to select. We have got multiple tools here according to the operation. We have got a gluing gun, grinding wheel, and these things. So this is a material handling application. You can select what is this needed. So we are taking a flower holding gripper we have changed here. If you want to change more, you can do it. So it is going to be a angular gripper again. We are changing. So this is the way we can change the gripper of the robot in the Aristosim software. Arc welding touch. Various applications we can give it to a robot, right? So now we are going to do the material handling application. So we are going to attach the 2-jaw gripper for that. So same way how we have done the robot without a gripper, it will look like this. So you have to select the tool 2-jaw gripper, which is the default we have programmed. So it will be done, right? And then we have to set up the voxel. So when we open the software, it was having only the robot, right? So we should do the setup first. Likewise, this is the first we have got the robot alone. We should bring in the robot table and pedestal using this insert option, so that pedestal and table will be loaded. And if you want to do a new object into that, we have got an option here itself. We can select the shape of the object and the positioning we can do it, and you can import that object into the table. So we have, if you have designed something in the CAD object and if you want to import that also you can do it using the import option. Some CAD designs or something you want to do it, bring into the software, that you can do it. And to represent, you can select the color of the object also, and you should give some name to denote the object in the software. So palette 1 or palette 2, we have to name it, right? Right, this is the palette. And then we are going to bring in some objects in the palette to assemble. So that's going to be a palette 2 in the end position, where we are going to place the materials. Right, so we are going to take up the cylinders from this palette and we are going to move it to this palette. And we are going to bring the cylinders in the initial position, where in this palette we will load the cylinders. I have defined I have noted down the position, so that's why I'm giving it in a one click. But if you can doing the positioning by yourself, wherever it is required, we can change it. So we will have around 6 cylinders to move. right? The first cylinder is being loaded. And you can copy also. No need to do it for the same. I'm going to copy that first cylinder into 8 numbers, and we are going it along the path. We can copy it. Y pitch is going to be the different. So you can see the blue are all the copied cylinders. You can change the colors. And you can rename cylinder 1, cylinder 2, cylinder 3, right? To denote it. So since they are looking similar, when we place it in this, we will get confused which is cylinder 1, which is cylinder 2. We have a common name for all cylinders. That's why we are giving 1, 2, and 3 to trace the cylinders while we do the programming. So there are 8 cylinders with us now. So I'm naming it in 1 to 8. Right? So it is done. So now the setup is ready. Now we are going to start up the programming. So 8 cylinders and 2 pallets we have done. Right? Next we will start doing the programming, how to pick and place the robot. Right? So first the command which we are using to move the robot points from this point to this point we are using is joint. So whenever the initial point, now I'm starting this point, I've given starting point of a robot, we have given a join command. Okay, the command we can select in this round up, and when we give enter, the position of the robot will get captured into this joint. So first position I've given in a joint, and I'm moving the robot manually. See, I'm moving the first axis manually to reach the cylinder, first cylinder, where we can zoom in and we can see also. Okay, this we have to do it manually only. So the programming which we are doing is a offline programming method now, right? And I'm twisting the gripper now to get connected to the first cylinder. Now we will look closer what is happening. Now we have opened the gripper. This we have to do with a command, right? Gripper command open, so that it will be captured in the program, right? Go closer again to the cylinder now, and we will give a join command again, right? So you can see now the cylinder is in between the gripper. Now we can close the gripper, right? And you have to do it in the command gripper close programming line. We have to add gripper close, so that when we do automatic operation, and this grasp is nothing but we have got the cylinder 8 in the control now. So if it is doing a mechanically, when we close it, the cylinder is going to come along with the gripper. But in the software, you have to give this grasp command so that it will move along the gripper now. So it is giving the confirmation that the cylinder is in the contact with the gripper. So only it is giving a grasp command, right? So now if you move the robot, the cylinder 8 is also moving along the gripper, you can see. So now we are taking that cylinder up and we are giving a join command, right? See, the cylinder is in the gripper, and we will move it to the pallet 2 where we have got the positions. I'm moving only the axis 1 where it's getting reached to that position, right? You watch closer. Now we can open the gripper and gripper open. You have to enter in the program. Again, a join command. See the cylinder is placed. Likewise, similar way, I have to do it for all these 8 cylinders separately. A join command, gripper open, and get into the cylinder, right? And get the closed. Grasp command, again to the pallet to place it. Likewise, we have to program for all the 8 cylinders separately because the position is different for all these 8 cylinders. So there I'm repeating it for the cylinder number 7 now. Close gripper command again. Enter it in the program. Enter. Close. Whenever a close, grasp will be there. So cylinder 7 we are grasping now. Joint again at this position. Enter. Bring back the cylinder to the pallet 2. So I'm moving the third axis. These things we have to decide. We have to decide which axis we have to move without collision with other cylinders or with the table, with the pallet. That we have to do it manually only. Again, there is a various way of doing this program. Not only the way I am doing. There are more other ways where you can do. But the thing is going to be the same. We are taking up the cylinder and we are going to place it here in this pallet. There are multiple ways of doing it. Right. So again, now the cylinder 7 is been placed in the pallet 2. After placing in that, and we will open the gripper, it will be released from the robot. Right. Open gripper and move it. So you should be familiar with the axes, which axis, which movement we will do it. So that we have to get familiar with it first, and then we have to start up the programming. So similar way I have done for all the 8 cylinders, and we have placed it in the second pallet. So the programming wise, the structure is the same for all the 7. Just we are repeating it in the different positions, right? So this is the programming for this palletizing operation. So next we will see the simulation. We have written the program now, and we are going to see the simulation. How it is getting simulated. Okay. See the first cylinder. So now once you have written the program, we can run this program for multiple operations. N number of times this will do this now. For programming, we have done the movement and we have teach the robot only single time. So once it is done, it will do it for N number of times. So what are the commands we used here? One join command, gripper open, gripper close, only 3, and homing. 4 commands only we have used for this application. It's a simple application. Also, we can do a welding path generation or to various components also. We can do it, right? So you can see the gripper movements now, how a gripper is been moved and placed the cylinders closely, right? Same application only it is doing again, right? So this is how we are doing the programming in the Aristo Sims. So let me show you one more application which we are doing, a welding application which we are doing it in pipe. Okay, pipe rim, pipe joint. This is a pipe joint. Right. So here, this is our component, a very big component where we are going to do a arc welding application, right? Along this circular path. The robot has got the arc welding gun. So let us, this is the better way. So let me have a close view. Just a second. We'll have a different view. So you can zoom into the surfaces where it is required, right? So we are going, this is the pipe rim we have got. So I'm going to we have generated a welding path here to this pipe rim. Let us see the program. Yes. So see, again we have used the join command and all those things only in this program also. So let us see how it has been done. You can see, so this is a continuous operation, right? So where we have to move the robot along the surface of the pipe rim. That like that programming also we can do it using this Aristo Sim software. Various applications we can do, not only material handling, welding, and quality testings of various things. All those activities we can use the Aristo Sim robot. So when we do this program, and we can convert it into the robotic controller where it is needed, and we can simulate it also. So for in our company, we have got the Aristo robot in physically, we are also manufacturing this Aristo Sim robot. So once an operation is being programmed in this software, we can do it in the robot also to perform, a physical robot also to perform the operation which is being done, right? So after you can see how parallelly all the axes are working to reach. So after the operation, it is coming back to its home position, right? So this is what about the Aristo Sim software. Hope I have given you some idea about the robotics and some programming in Aristo Sim, right? Yes. So we will have the session for the next 10 minutes, the question and answer session. So things you are not clear, you can ask for doubts. You can ask, or any clarifications needed, not only doubt.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
One question.
Yes,
So
sir.
here you are showing all the robot pedestal type and table type.
Yes, sir.
And two types. And one more is conveyor movement.
Yes, sir.
What about the rail movement? So rail movement is the important that because linear controller.
Yes,
Because
sir.
this is you're showing the here axis controlled by the one axis or two axis, whether it is
Hmm?
based anything.
Hmm?
In the assembly section, we
Hmm?
need to rail movement because
Hmm?
linear movement for such a long meters,
Hmm?
2 meters, 3 meters. Anything example you have, sir? Please show me that.
Okay. So rail movement, what we are asking for is the robots which is available in our company. I'm done with the explanation, sir. So we have got these two only: Scara mini robot and this Aristro robot. One more we have got industrial robot which is updated now, which is we have got now. So unfortunately, we don't have that rail in the presentation. Thanks for the question, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything else from your side, sir?
Dear participants, is there any doubt? You can ask with our resource person, Mr. Palapan, sir. Please.
Okay, hope the people have got some points. And can we wind up the session, sir?
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. You have explained all the things like robot technology, basics of robotics, types of robots, and wrist assembly, and robotics frame, tool design center, and the robot system, and end effector, robotic programming types, and applications of pick and place and arc welding in nicely manner. I hope participants are, I think, got knowledge from that field. Thank you,
Yes.
sir. Thank
Thank you,
you with
sir.
your busy
Once
time,
again,
busy schedule you have spent with us, sir.
yeah, sir. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
sir.
And thank you all for your patience throughout the session. And special thanks to the Murugappa Polytechnic and Karthikeyan, sir, for the opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Sure, sir.
Thank you.
Sure, sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Dear participants, one announcement for you. You can join the afternoon session at 1:45 p.m. itself. 1:45. Thank you, sir. Thank
Yeah.
you all.
Thank you all.
Thanks.